Hi, my name is Keith Cooper of Northlight Images. Now, the other day I did a video about some general tips and thoughts about black and white photography, digital black and white, because film is not something I've worked with for a long while. But anyway, in that I mentioned some books and other stuff and things that I do occasionally for inspiration in my photography. Now, looking through the collection here, and the bookshelves go around the office, so I've got quite a few. First up, get old photography books when you go to second-hand bookshops and the likes of that. I've picked up some absolute stunning ones for next to nothing. Just because they're old does not make them irrelevant. But back to that black and white stuff. And I've got some specific examples here. I'll come back to a few. You don't need these particular books. Well, some of them, it helps if you get them. But this is the sort of stuff that if I'm having a bit of a what shall I do sort of things, yes, I can look at pictures I've taken, and I've got loads around the walls here and things. But sometimes I just want to see something else. And as part of that, I was looking at this copy of Ansel Adams' guide, Book 1, Basic Techniques of Photography. Now, some people will say, but this was written years ago. I've got no interest in film. I've got no interest in large format cameras. What relevance is this to me? Well, you look at the pictures. This is worth reading as well, but it is worthwhile hunting out books like this. I can guarantee, I think there are very few books up on the bookshelves here I've ever paid full price for. There are one or two, but in general, no, I've got them all cheap. This particular one, there are some really nice examples in it. Now, you can take it as general inspiration for colour as well as black and white, but I like the black and white. And the example that I've got here is two pictures, or two prints. We're talking about prints here. One is the image as captured by the camera, and the other is the image as envisaged by the photographer and as produced as a print. Now, when you look at this, the as captured image, it's a cloudy day up in the mountains, and yeah, I've seen it loads of times when I've been driving around in the States. I've seen stuff like this, and I've seen that cloud, but you have to sometimes see past that dull weather and whatever and see what's happening and have your idea of what you want. And this one, the difference between the as shot and as printed images are very different. Now, this particular one, there are one or two aspects I wouldn't have pushed quite so far as have been pushed. But that's your own taste. That's your style, what appeals to you. But have a look at stuff like this. It's packed full of great photos, books like this. I said this one, the general technique as well. Learn to ignore what isn't relevant to you. So if talking about, particular film types and processing films, yeah, it has some interest, but it's years since I processed film, and it's in the reality of things, it's never going to happen again. But have a look. Another example, I mentioned, somebody had asked me about photographing foggy days. There is a lovely shot there of what to me is the key thing, light and fog, street lights in fog. The effects work brilliantly in black and white. Now, I have seen colour ones like this as well, but as I said at the time, think about what the fog does to where you're looking at things. It's really, and you can duplicate that. A foggy day is much easier to print than a bright, contrasty summer day in many respects. Now, you can make great prints of either, but technically, the foggy day is probably suits what you can do with a particular printer much better. And there are loads of stuff. I mean, there's big lists of Polaroid sheet films. Yes. Will I be interested in Polaroid sheet films? No, I'm not. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to be using this thing here anymore. I keep thinking maybe one day I will, but it's not. I use it, as I said, for this I use as part of my teaching about tilt shift lenses and things like that, but actually using it as a camera, yeah, I'd like to think I would, but yeah, let's be realistic about it. But some great examples in here, even the picture on the front, nice example. You might not like that particular composition, but makes you think. If it makes you think, then good. Second book, here, this is another Ansel Adams one, and this one talks about, and this is one of the series of them, as the camera and the print. This is the print. Now, there is a lot in this about the mechanics of making darkroom prints. And I think a few people don't realise just how much work was involved in producing a print like this from an image, that example I showed earlier. Now, when I see this and all the bits and pieces that it says, oh, it needs an extra 10 seconds processing here and things like that, this to me is layers in Photoshop. That's how I visualize a lot of editing. I've used layers in Photoshop for years, and as I've said, I'm not a great fan of Lightroom, non-destructive editing, various reasons for that. But when I look at how a print like this is made, I can see exactly how I would do this digitally, and it reminds me, same as that print image in the other book of the cloudy day up in the mountains, made me immediately think, I'm sure I've got some pictures taken in conditions like that. I wonder if I had a look at them. That inspiration need not come from just going out and taking photos. It could be just going back to your archives, going through your archives, looking at stuff you perhaps ignored before that you didn't think was worth doing. Maybe it's different. I always remember that virtually every shot in my archive, and I do keep all my archive, every shot was probably taken for a reason at the time. Now, sometimes I couldn't justify that reason 5 minutes after I took the shot. Sometimes I look at it now and I think, oh, yes, I see why I took that. Well, that ain't going to work, but at least I've thought about it. Keep your bad shots as well as your good ones, because the bad shots can help educate you as to what didn't work, and that can be as important in knowing that as what did work. Can guide your experimenting. But anyway, there's two Ansel Adams ones. But what about going back further? Not necessarily when the pictures were taken, but in older books. Now, I've got one here. This one here, Perlman on print quality. Now this one, has it got the price in it? Whoa, I paid 50p for this one. Must have impressed me. But you can always tell these older books because the pictures, the photographs in them, first there's no colour photos, and the pictures in them are clumped together in the printing. The pictures aren't distributed throughout the book, so it always tells you that something's a little bit old for that. Some of the black and white examples in this, this is one where you go through and you look at pictures. Some of them will seem trite, some of them will seem very basic, but think about, oh, is that similar to something I've taken? Now, for the black and white, I'm looking at composition, I'm looking for ideas, nice picture of some trees in a misty wood. Now, that's not dissimilar. That reminded me of one that I probably took somewhere. It has that look about it. But books like this, this has got stuff about how reflections appear in water. Now, all right, the example is a big camera on a tripod looking at a reflection of something, but the stuff in this about how light is reflected exactly the same today as it was in 1958 when this edition was made. So old stuff like this, have a look. Now, this last one here, this is the all-in-one camera book. You will find this in second-hand shops all over the place. Now, the version of this that I first learnt technical aspects of photography from was, I don't think it's here actually, it was an even older edition than that. This is from 1972. This is when I went out and bought the latest edition, because the old one I'd read must have come from the late 50s or something like that. It goes back further than that. Focal Press, the best first book on photography in the world. Yeah, this one kicked off. I'm sure a lot of people will recognise this. A picture of W.D. Emanuel on the back of it. You know, the guy. 1 million amateurs used it as an easy path to good photography. Well, yeah. This is probably the first serious photography book, and this is one that I paid full price for. I think, can't can't remember what the price was on this one, but it was probably around, oh, here we go, on the back, 95 pence. So there you go, that's how much I paid for that. That was brand new, but 1973, 72, 73, 95 pence was not a trivial amount of money. But the whole thing is just get the, I've got loads of these, I've been reading them again, just looking for stuff on it. It helps that somebody asked me again, would I consider writing a book on printing? I have to remember that I wrote this book on tilt shift lenses, on using tilt shift lenses. I know how much work it took to produce something like that. And another problem is that, you know, if I wrote a book on printing, could I get away without mentioning Lightroom? Could I also get away without even mentioning the fact that Windows PCs exist? Because one I don't much like, and the other I've not used one this century, so it's a lot of work. Yeah, I think of it every so often, then I have a look at this to remind me just how much work goes into writing a proper book. Vastly more than goes into making things like these little videos. But anyway, there are some interesting books that you will find likely somewhere, or similar ones. Don't dismiss them as irrelevant just because they were a few years ago and they talk about film. A great picture then is quite possibly a great picture today. Is a great picture today, would it have been a great picture then? Maybe, maybe not. Very difficult to tell. These things, tastes change, but a lot of the technicalities of making competent, good, technical prints and pictures have not changed that much. Anyway, love to hear your opinions on the matter, what works for you, what doesn't work for you. And I say, it's people's questions that regularly give me ideas to do these videos. So I hope that has been some interest. I hope somebody finds themselves a good book and learns something from it. Oh, do check those archives as well. You could have some great pictures there. And software these days lets you reprocess old images. If you've kept the raw files, and you did keep the raw files, didn't you? If you've got those, well, there you go, what to do. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.